we had a technology working party meeting recently, and one of the things that came up was what happens to all the data that is collected by IT systems, CAFM systems within the IT industry. Where does all that data sit? And I think the two questions are, is it any good? Do we want to use it? And the second question is, can we get our hands on it if it's any good? So I'm interested to know from these guys what they think about that question, about what their clients think, because if we can get our hands on it at the FMA, we're going to do a benchmarking exercise. But I'm deeply in the hands of these ladies and gentlemen on the panel here. So John, so you have something to say, would you like to answer the question first?
A lot of questions there, Chris.
Where does the data sit?
The data that always sits with the client. As far as we're concerned, it's the client's data, and people get very protective about that. You know, benchmarking in its purest form requires multiple inputs from many different sources to enable it to take a measured approach and a balance. But fundamentally, in the FM spaces, people are very secretive over their own data, whether that's because they feel that the secrets are kept within the data, or the process that surrounds that. Does it give them that USP? So in answer to your question, unfortunately, I can never see where we have a central store of data across FM. I think there's too much competition, and maybe we all need to become a little bit more informed before we can actually start to push that forward.
I think that the process of making buildings even smarter as they are today, new technologies that will be applied all over the place will even make this data issue a bigger one, because it's going to be anywhere, and indeed it is not in a certain space. And that's the challenge. Data is not necessarily information. Probably know about all the new trend in IT, which is around big data. I think for FM, big data will be in terms of how are we getting the building related information out, the smart infrastructures that we are going to apply for different reasons with different vendors, and our different technologies in different buildings, although I own them myself. How are we going to make sensible information out of that? And I think that the industry in the FM realm as well will be working on that in the years to come.
Well, this has been a perennial challenge for many years. How do you use that building information to better understand what you're delivering in service terms, or what you can do to improve that building from a design point of view? There's always been a disconnect between those who gather this type of data, be it on a CAFM system, and those who need to use it. And to be frank, I think it's because the industry is driven the way it's driven. It's driven by contract, by contract, by contract. And there's no benefit in a service provider taking that information over a 10, 15-year period, comparing it with all their other contracts, and indeed, if they could, across the industry, and then making some rational decisions. So again, the technology's there, the CAFM systems, the analytical systems, they're all there, but it's, to my mind, it's the nature of the industry which mitigates against you using that information collectively. So until we change the culture of short-term contract by contract implementation of CAFM systems, I'm afraid I can't see a way out unless you start to cooperate across the industry and across contracts.
Well, it's interesting that the two people have trashed this idea, and the people that work primarily with service providers, who are indeed very, very secretive about their information. They're not the only people that use FM systems, so I think there's a lot of organisations out there that might actually get some real benefit from benchmarking. If you just take it away from FM for a minute, let's look at people like Tesco's and Amazon, who have made an industry and a lot of money out of benchmarking and understanding what their consumers are doing. They're playing with big data and they're making money out of it, and they're improving their businesses. And if we walk away from that premise and say we're not interested in it, then I think we're missing a big opportunity. I think there is the ability to strip out data and take away the personalized information that exists within different organizations' databases, so that pulling the key information that you want in order to take some to do benchmarking that is interesting. So I would take this a different way, and maybe Chris wasn't quite so surprised to hear me take that approach.
Chris, I think that multiple systems, particularly in the FM world, fail as a result of no data. I think the number of presentations that I've done whereby you will be quite happy to show an iPad, the technology running off it, the FM system, the functionality that drives out of it, and there seems to be a total lack of understanding that you can throw a PPM scheduler up on screen, but actually it needs the data to do anything with. And whilst it can be quite entertaining, the number of client systems that fail because they've purchased an FM package but actually have no ability to populate the information within it. That is extremely crucial. Our systems do not operate without your data.
I mean, I think data is power, regardless of what industry you're in. And I think we collect so much data in the FM industry and we do nothing with it.